It takes quite the stroke of genius to make a Souls-like game that is not only on par with many of the original series, but often exceeds them in many key areas. Lies of P, however, managed to do just that. NeoWiz's effort, in tandem with what just may be my favorite individual DLC edition ever in Overture, created what I think stands out as the clear best FromSoft derivative not made by FromSoft themselves. The story and the way they tell it is simply masterful, and there are plenty of quality of life improvements that show how to best modernize titles like this. Of course, every Souls-like is ultimately going to be judged on the quality of their bosses at the end of the day. And this Pinocchio retelling's creations were just so sublime in terms of their overall look, impact on the narrative, and extremely trying difficulty. So few games can even hold a candle to this thing. With how the bosses take inspiration from Bloodborne and Sekiro due to the speed and parry focus of this game, the bosses meld the best of these two titles together. On top of being just excellent, they take Bloodborne's aggressive style and the need to maintain constant pressure, where from Sekiro it takes perfect parrying and the whole "you're gonna beat this boss in a very specific way and we won't let you pass until you do" mindset. Well, unless you use summons, and that can help too. Welcome to the video, everyone. My name is RaptorJets, and I'm ranking every boss in Lies of P from worst to best. Big disclaimer in two parts coming up here. This is not the boss quality rankings, this is purely how hard they are. And also, spoiler warning, we're going to go really deep in terms of looking at the overall plot here for both the base game and the DLC. And this is one title I really urge you to avoid spoilers as best you can. It really will be so worth it, I guarantee you. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to show some support and to see more content like this. Number 28, Puppet of the Future. This is one step below a reskin of Last Giant and other ankle-biting fights from FromSoft games of yesteryear. But this is much easier than any of those quarrels. This thing is just so damn slow. It takes a few seconds for that stomp attack to wind up and finish. And that's a problem because this thing only has 2 attacks. And the other one is just as slow of a wind up. After this new evolution of Adjudicator from Demon Souls gives you enough time to saunter out of range, it'll occasionally start windmilling its arms in a circle. You'll face a few of these guys in both Venini Works and the Poison Swamp area, and the latter one's only up the difficulty by occasionally stomping more frequently? Why is this the Puppet of the Future? Is the future in 1760? The challenge in the first area is a Myth of the Baneful Queen callback, where this guy's surrounded in a big corruption swamp. But with enough exploring, and a much less vague solution than the whole light the windmill on fire thing, I'm still mad about that, man. You can clear the room and beat this guy the old-fashioned way. When compared to someone like Last Giant, it feels inferior in both quality and challenge. Number 27, most of the Stalkers, like the Owl, Survivor, and Mad Donkey. There are a few exceptions to this rule, as some Stalkers have enough points of difference to warrant further discussion, but many of these fights are too eerily similar when compared to one another to be considered on their own merit. With no PvP invasion in this game, these guys come in to serve as the replacement for the one-on-one human fights. Much like people in real life, these guys have a particular weak point when they are stabbed in the back. Each of these guys will eventually leave enough of an opening for you to fatal attack and just crunch that health bar down to nothing. The sweepers like the donkey are easier than the bastards like the mouse, as many of the former use bigger weapons and move just a bit slower. Even though I didn't fight the black cat and red fox my last playthrough, these guys may be about as difficult as these sort of fights get. I definitely like the fact that they're in the game, but once you figure out how being aggressive with these guys can really defang them, you won't really be dreading them as a fight. Number 26, White Lady. She may seem like a regular stalker, but this one has a few more tricks up her sleeve that make her a bit spicier when trying to take her down. As this stage performer clashes blades with you to the tune of a brilliant, soft French opera tune that contrasts with the vicious battle going on in front of you, she fights you like a fencer, getting 2 or 3 quick hits in and then darting away. This is actually a fairly tragic story within the lore, as she's fighting you on behalf of her sister Adelina, who you meet later on, and is also the reason that her blade-wielding sister is no longer able to sing. She never knows that, even after you take her down, and she goes all out in the name of defending her sister who, let's be real, kinda screwed her. This is a bit of a difficulty jump, namely because she's so much faster than the other stalkers. Being able to parry well can trivialize this fight, and even though I was completely not prepared the first few times I faced her, I eventually managed to get the timings down and wreck her due to fairly low defense. Patricia gives you a pretty easy fight on repeat attempts, but the atmosphere and impact behind it will push it up the overall quality list when it comes out.
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
Number 25, Door Guardian. Confession, I got into Liza P late, and a couple of bosses received some major nerfs to their power, and nobody got hit harder than this guy. Apparently he was borderline broken before the nerf, and my response is, oh well. I got the later version, and he's pretty easy, I don't know. For someone fought this late in the game, I really didn't have too much trouble with him. Apparently the first version had a very tanky health bar, some small stagger windows, and some quick shock buildup that could massacre your health. The new version is much slower and more lumbering, almost Iron Golem levels. The shock status is really the only thing that can concern you this time around. The only way the new look Guardian will give you any trouble is if you get greedy, as some of those big punches can take a good chunk out of your health bar and stamina if they connect. Just take your time with this guy and he'll fall eventually. This is the kind of boss I'm perfectly fine with nerfing. He doesn't have any status within the lore, he's more of a souped up mini boss given where he is, and the challenge came from a tanky health bar more than anything else. Number 24, Parade Master. This is the Udex Gundyr first boss, as it tries to ensure you kinda know what you're doing a little bit before you get to the hub area. However, most of the challenge in this doesn't necessarily come from this mechanical murder clown being a particularly thorny task. It's due to the fact that you barely have any pulse cells, which means any mistake is going to be punished hardcore. This dude packs a punch, even when considering his status as the tutorial boss. Just look at that intro cutscene, where you see some knocked out lights that for some reason says fetal and is never explained again. And then you see the big cage on this guy's back that was evidently filled with the bodies of his old human masters. You know, just in case you thought this was going to be a little lighter in tone than some of the other Souls games. That Thunderflop attack can take a good chunk of your health, but it's also perhaps the most important attack this guy has. It shows how wide some of the windows for parrying can be and the aggression these bosses will show. He'll also go headless and start whacking you with a hammer, just for fun. This is still one of the better intro bosses in any Souls-like game. It doesn't beat you over the head with oppressive difficulty, but it does do a solid job of showing the thematic tenor this game will force on you.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
Number 23, Corrupted Parade Master. You get a second crack at this psychotic showman later in the game, as he gets corrupted by the petrification plague and turns into a big blue headless monster. While he's weaker to fire damage this time around, he does add a few more moves that make him a bit harder to deal with, so he successfully avoided the Demon Fire Sage reskin pitfall. Well done. Carcass Mutation lets him feel the burn in round 2, and his ability to throw up some acid and hit you with ranged attacks make him different enough to feel like a unique encounter. The design just looks ugly, and I'm not a fan of reskins in general from a philosophical point of view, but he feels different from some of the other offenders in Soulsborne. Twin Dragon Rider is a pair of the same boss. Fire Sage and Stray Demon are identical to Asylum Demon with like one extra attack. And how many generals and Shichiman warriors did I have to beat in Sekiro? Even Mighty FromSoft has some problems with their old tricks, but NeoWiz managed to avoid it here. Number 22, King's Flame Fuoco. This may have been a complete beginner's luck thing, because I remember hearing this guy was a major roadblock once you get through the very long and involved Vanini Works level, but I managed to best this flammable foe on my first try. I just know that saying that's gonna curse me and make this guy kill me 10 times on my next playthrough, so, well, that'll be fun. One big attack you need to watch out for, and that's that Fire Shockwave. It has some really outrageous range and hits you with overheat faster than you can blink. I also think I got fortunate because those wild swings may have been enough to pummel me, but I just managed to step out of the range. I know he's an early game boss, but the lack of variety in his attacks is kinda noticeable. There's nothing too crazy about it, and it may feel a bit easier than the one who came just before it. But this is one of the few bosses in this game where even on a first playthrough, the difficulty feels perfectly appropriate. As long as the overheat doesn't get you all twisted up, I don't think you'll be here for that long.
You want to talk to him?
Because I don't want to give you a phone straight away. You said you've got to delay him.
No, you've got to talk to them. They should...
Number 21, Scrapped Watchman. This one can be a sign that the Star Fragment summons are a bit overpowered. This guy felt like a ton of bricks when I had that second body to deal and absorb damage. But when you face him without that summon, this will show you just how exceedingly tight the parry windows are. It can be a problem early on. This guy's electric attacks are a real, dare I say, system shock? Yeah, I know, it's staying in. So what? Wowee, is this guy tough to deal with at first. Mostly because pretty much every damn attack he has this crazy delay. Those Fury attacks pair with a very small parry window. It can be borderline one-hit stuff. The second phase doesn't make things any easier, as he starts adding the electric shock to his attacks, which will assuredly toast you at least once. The one problem many Lies of P bosses have is they got way too into the whole, let's just delay the attack thing, which just drives me up a wall, especially since so much of this game is so fast. If you can believe it, everything including this guy and up I would class as a difficult boss. There's no room for crybabies in this game, you really gotta earn it.
I'm seeing double here. 4 Krusties!
Number 20, Walker of Illusions. This one gave me so much more trouble than I thought it would. I assumed it would be a fairly standard mini-boss in a relatively small arena. I mean, I've done this before. Oh, they have a clone attack? No biggie, I've beaten Sullivan a few times, let's go. Boy, did I regret that. Man, oh man, is this guy, or gal, super aggressive. To the point where it's a real problem. The windows in between its flurry of attacks are so small, and when combined with the tiny arena, there's really not much of a chance of getting some distance between you and your alien invader here. Cloning in this small of an arena puts it almost into get bent territory. But this one's a little bit easier on repeat playthroughs, a little bit. The shock of her, his, they, its, I don't know, aggressiveness really blitzes your senses the first time, but it gradually mellows out. It reminds me of O-Rin of the Water from Sekiro. It's a 2/3 of the way done the game mini-boss that requires you to parry like crazy after a very unassuming entrance. You may think this is a fairly run-of-the-mill encounter, but if you don't deflect well and let that clone start dictating the terms, this could be an unexpected difficulty wall at this point in the game. Number 19, Pre-Metamorphic Green Hunter. The first DLC boss is an optional boss that's smaller and a less cheap variant of a boss that will assuredly be much higher on this list. They share a lot of mechanics, and some of them will hand you a few lie or die screens as you try to knock them down, but you also have DLC level health and weapon upgrades, and it gives you a better chance of survival. He doesn't use all of the fully formed, ridiculous hitbox moves his later form has, but he's a little bit faster and just as aggressive. Moving around and slowly pecking away at his health is the way to go. However, the reason he is where he is on this list, and maybe higher if you ask me on the wrong day, is that vomit-inducing grab attack that heals him. Spitting acid everywhere and whacking you with his tentacles, it'll keep the salt piling up with every defeat. To keep the comparisons to other Souls-like bosses going, this one gives me major Spawn of Ogdo from Jedi Survivor vibes. Not the first one in Fallen Order, the second one. I'm reminiscing about what a chore it was, and then all of a sudden, bam, you fight the younger version as well. I'll give it credit for that ghoulish howl echoing through that abandoned mine, but this guy is frustrating no matter when in his lifespan you fight him. Number 18, Fallen Archbishop Andreas. This is what I might call the click moment in this game, even if it didn't have Genichiro levels of, oh my god, I get it, involved with it. It's a nice boss altogether, the design is downright horrifying in how ugly and gruesome it is, and the bony one-winged angel trying to become Sephiroth has some very cool lines. The difficulty's pretty nice all around, too. Even though much of the difficulty in this one comes from the fact that it's meant to serve as an early game skill check that'll prepare you for the level of difficulty coming, some of his traits would have been tough no matter when you took them on. It's hard to see where his attacks are coming from, there's acid buildup, the health bar's pretty beefy, and he moves pretty quick for this big Junji Ito abomination that looks like Venom trying to take over the Blob. The key is to not try to hit that weird ghost guy from God of War 2 with no face in the second phase, and just try to keep hitting that big, misshapen horror flesh sack on the bottom. What knocks this guy down on the difficulty list is the fact that his parry windows are pretty generous with very clear tells. That might be what leads to you blitzing through that first phase on your way to victory. The second phase, however, still a doozy.
Looks like suffocating.
Number 17, Robber Weasel. Remember how I said some stalkers are a bit harder than others? Oh boy, do I loathe this one. It's just a regular guy, and they sound like Jennifer Tilly for some reason, but they hit like a truck. They're also fast enough that for a hardcore Dex user who was chopping guys up with Puppet Ripper throughout this playthrough, it was hard to get them in one of my trademark stun lock combos. It puts you in a lose-lose situation. If you're aggressive, unless you just parry like a god with insane reflexes, one or two attacks will melt your health bar and get you so out of touch and out of time, and out of your head when you're not around, that you can't recover. Play defensive and the AI takes it up a notch, coming right at you and forcing you into corners where there's no escape. The unblockable attack is like Luxasia level fast, and it always seems to come right after you take damage. The stalkers in this game are generally pretty easy compared to some of the other ones, but my god, this one got my eyes popping out of my head at times. It just looks so easy, but it's anything but.
Enough from the clown!
Let's not blow this out of proportion.
Number 16, Mad Clown Puppet. This one took me legit 45 minutes the first time I tried him out. With no summons to help you and some support puppets that are ready to burn you up if you just fight him straight up, the best strategy for new players is to just run right past him, activate the bonfire, Stargazer, and then try to beat him in front of the Opera House. Which, that's probably not great boss design. There has to be some input reading going on here. There just has to be. I can't explain it. He can switch between his ranged attacks and up-close ones in a blink, and he has the same wind-up for both of them. The tells on that belly bump attack are nanosecond precise, and the hitbox is so wonky that even when you turn the game off, you can take some damage. The combination of being extremely frenetic and way too damaging is just killer for this point in the game. You can start beating up on this Pagliaccian pest by knowing to a very precise degree his very short windows in between attacks, and getting a few hits in before he starts spinning around like a goddamn top. This is in the middle of the difficulty list, but it will not be anywhere close on the quality list. This is one of the few, and I mean like 2 or 3 at the max, bosses I just straight up disliked in this game.
Only an honest death will kill you now.
Number 15, Marchiona, Puppeteer of Death. The matchup against this buxom blue-skinned belligerent would have been much higher had I kept my approach of trying to knock down that angel puppet that just hovers around her. All depleting that health bar will do is temporarily slow her down. Just go straight for her, and through the laws of probability, you'll get some big hits on the other guy in as well. There's like 15 attacks you gotta keep your antennas up for though. And despite that one orange AoE attack with Ancient Dragon Fire Breath levels of coverage, they give you generous windows to dodge while punishing you more than appropriately if you fail to get out of the way. Marchiona is a glass cannon who preys on your poor dodging skills. But this foe will fall if you can just focus on her enough. You'll hear this a lot during the higher entries on this list, but wow did that puppet string attack save me. That jump attack manages to sometimes get her and her puppet at once. This could have been much higher without it, as those whirling blue magic spheres that would make even Savos Aran and the Sijic Order blush, along with her weaponized friend, it'll put enough pressure on you to make some unforced errors. Just stay the course, and you'll win. Number 14, Tyrannical Predator. Wow, does this guy have barely any noticeable tells. Normally enemies that attack that quickly are relatively Pinocchio-sized and don't hit as hard, but this one is about as vicious as a 25-foot killer crocodile out for blood would be in real life. 2 or 3 big lunge attacks hitting you in a row, and you'll get sent back to that stargazer that is apparently in the zoo's ticket office for some reason. Stay in front of him and you're dead. The jaw on this ambulocetus adversary is so wide and strong that if he snaps you up, you're going to feel the pain. As great as this game is, so many of these bosses expect you to just perfect parry like a master, lest you get chomped up and mashed into a pile of mechanical limbs. It's just way too big. Even if you're in a dead sprint, sometimes you can't dodge some of these attacks. If you load up your weapon with fire enhancements, that can help you pick away at his health bar due to that carcass enemy status. Ultimately, I'm not too high on this guy from a quality point of view, as those sudden and destructive attacks in an arena the size of a twister mat will get some veins popping out of your neck. But if you're after just pure raw challenge, he certainly provides that. Number 13, Eldest of the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. I actually like this fight more than others, mostly because the lore behind this band of brothers is pretty solid. But it's still not amazing. It's certainly frustrating though. Primarily because whenever you try to take on the big guy in this 4-on-1 duel, he's so fast and aggressive that unless you parry like a god early on again, it'll be a grind to even get past him. It would be one thing if he was slow and lumbering to counteract the smaller, speedier members of this malfeasance multitude, but nope. He's as fast, maybe faster, than some of them. With big, heavy hits of that Buster Sword, combos that go on forever, and really aggressive tracking, you can't just chip away at this guy. You fight him so early too. He's the 5th proper boss in this game. You're not strong enough to really go toe-to-toe with him, unless, again, you just perfect guard the hell out of him. Props for the unique way to spice up a gang fight, making it stand out on its own with a fairly seldom replicated challenge, as opposed to just dropping them all at you at once. They needed to just tone the big guy down a little bit, and the entire quality of the fight suffers because they didn't. I'll give him props for the art and sound design though. Feels like you're fighting Bane when you face off against him. Number 12, Black Rabbit Brotherhood. Surprise, it's these guys again. After killing the big guy the first time around, you take on the remaining 3 all at once with various elemental attacks. The youngest has acid daggers, the middle one has an electric staff, and the oldest has a fire sword. Kill 2 of the remaining Leploridae brethren, and the eldest alchemist-inspired strange brew brings him back to life with a vengeance. What I don't like about Big Guy Part 2 here is how he introduces new wrinkles that are in this game exclusively to catch you off guard and get some cheap deaths. Those blue energy waves coming out of the sword will be enough for a lot of people to handle, but then he adds in that fake out extra attack after you stun him. You realize how that mechanic was created entirely to kill you, thinking that you got a free hit in, right? Was I mad? You bet your backside I was. Especially since it had taken me forever to get him down to that point. I like this fight a little bit more than the first one, even though it is an old school gank squad in a very small arena. If you have enough wide sweeping attacks, you can go and down one of them very quickly and even the odds. If you whittle the 2 remaining ones to low health, you can dispatch them quickly before the big guy comes back. The story and lore importance are much more impactful and memorable than the raw difficulty here. Number 11, Veronique, leader of the Sweepers. At the bottom of this giant experimental facility that doubles as, I don't know, a meatpacking plant, you'll find the commander of the less elegant and more brutal of the 2 stalker factions. And she's gone a little nuts after getting trapped down here. You give her an honorable death and later get some revenge for her, but man does she make you earn it. That maxed out puppet string attack saved my ass in this fight, as that Ulrich hammer from God of War 2, wow, 2 references to that game now, will flatten you like a pancake. Not can, will. It hits like a truck, the swings will hit you if you're on Pluto, the fire attacks come at you at weird angles, and she never slows down. Avoiding the fire attacks like trying to swim and not get wet, even with all your endgame upgrades. As is often the case with the Overture bosses, the windows she gives you are blink and you miss it level quick. As a human-sized enemy, she can get stunned a little bit if you get right up in her teeth, and you have enough fire resistance to feel the burn without caving in. The patterns are a little bit predictable though, even with the limited tells. Just don't get hit square with that hammer, or you're toast. Number 10, Green Monster of the Swamp. Now, I may complain about Osiris' charge attack in Dark Souls 3, but I still like that fight when it's all said and done. This monstrosity brings about some really destructive attacks, namely that one where he burrows into the ground and takes you out from below like a shark. But it feels more like a completely unfair piece of nonsense that will have you screaming for vengeance like Judas Priest. This guy is so manic. He whacks you with his tentacles, his hitbox is the size of a stegosaurus, he gives you acid buildup, it's hard to even pick up on his tells due to how inhuman and oddly shaped he is. That first phase is just hell on wheels. At least the second phase gets a bit easy. Nope! In fact, he reuses attack patterns from the Scrapped Watchman fight. This guy is just a pain and a half, and I felt no shame in trying to star fragment my way to a win on this one. The only saving grace is he's kinda weak to fire, and if you have a weapon like Puppet Ripper, it could be good enough to get this gelatinous piece of gunk out of your hair. But this guy can give you one of the highest numbers of frustrating deaths you'll have in this game. It always gives you just enough of an opening to make you think you're about to beat him, and then it slams the door on you.
Heavyweight champion, Randy Macho Man Savage!
Number 9, Champion Victor. Once you get over the admittedly kind of weak dialogue and weird voice, you end up with a fight that is going to be near the top in terms of overall quality. He has a very inelegant design and doesn't zoom all over the arena, but for when you fight him in the main story, his punches can be strong enough to beat the absolute paste out of you if he connects. What I like about this fight when analyzing the difficulty is despite these 1-2 George Foreman combos hitting you like a sledgehammer, there's enough of a window where you can recover with or without a fist to the face. He only has 1 or 2 attacks with more than 3 individual moves in them, so you can get this guy down with memorization instead of responding to random spaz out attacks. It really is like a boxing match. Both combatants will have enough time to uncork some 2 or 3 attack long combo chains, and the winner of this duel will be the one who can best mitigate the damage dealt and win these little clashes. Problem is, when you face this guy, you can be very under level as far as pure defense goes, and that makes the margin for error so small. Number 8, Romeo, King of Puppets. Everyone's gonna have this one at number 1 or number 2 on their boss quality list, and not to spoil that video, I'm probably going to as well. This isn't an oppressively hard encounter either, mostly due to a first phase that isn't that intimidating, even though it appears to be so at the beginning. A few well-timed parries with big slinky arm punches and giant whirlwind slashes should kick it into phase 2 fairly easily. Phase 2 is an absolute masterpiece of gaming. It is a real hair-on-fire moment when it comes to actually beating this thing, though. Romeo's range is goddamn ridiculous, downright befuddling at times. That Puppet Ripper can overcome all your defenses, the fire attacks add some damage over time, and he has that one combo where he goes on for like 7 or 8 or 64 attacks and demands perfect defense. Look, lore-wise, I get why you're angry, man, but give me some breathing room here. The only reason this guy is not a mortal lock for the number 1 spot in the boss ranking list is that second phase tips ever so slightly into bullshit territory at times, mostly due to that one combo. It's still pretty hard, but if they removed that long string of attacks and took his range down just a bit, it might be on the outside of the top 10 rather than battling for a top 5 spot.
I'm Leonard Nimoy.
Spock? Hey, do the thing!
I don't do that anymore.
Number 7, Two-Faced Overseer. This guy, as the name would suggest, has 2 modes, so not false advertising. One of them's hard, but nothing too wild for DLC stuff. The Lemon Lime Gatorade phase helps him use his electrolyte power to hit you with some powerful swings of this mace, many of which can get you trapped in weird spots as the camera misbehaves, but nothing too wild. Then he switches over to Fruit Punch Gatorade, and that may as well be your code to get the hell out of the way. When the head is green, hit him in the spleen. When the head is red, you're probably dead. This isn't like somebody using a special attack in a fighting game either. He stays like that for a while. You can't just run away either. He'll eventually get you. What makes things hard is the fact that you may not have the chops to throw hands with him. Using the horn to summon real Alidoro makes this fight much easier, but how can I not do that, man? I see what all the hype around this guy was about. Like another boss a little bit later on this list, part of what makes him a bit less fun is the fact that his health bar is so insanely high. Even when you're hitting him regularly, it feels like trying to knock down a satellite with a paint mixer. This is probably more meant to be an Alidoro aura farming session than anything else, and summoning him brings this fight from an exercise in concentrated pain to a fun side-by-side ass-kicking duel that stands out as one of the best moments from an awesome DLC. Number 6, Pinocchio, Leader of the Bastards. You'll notice a trend with many of the harder bosses on this list. The first phase is generally solid and doable, and the second phase is blisteringly hard to the point where it's almost stupid. This debonair chap is the poster child for this, as the first phase, while annoying, may even be called easy if you manage to consistently orient yourself in the right way. You can get him down without using any pulse cells. This second phase is ridiculous. It really did feel borderline random when I beat him. One or two jump swipes can cross the entirety of this beach ship, there's constant delays, he never gets stunned, and he can just start that opening combo chain again, and it's so destructive. If that hits you early on, you might as well just give up, because you're not going to recover. It's manic in the worst way. Think Bloodstar Beast, but faster somehow. The first phase is whatever, and the second phase is just not fun, which is a rare misfire for a DLC that borders on perfection at times. At least you can put this coward down for good while he begs for his life in a fitting form of justice, very Homelander-esque, which I took some major joy in after spending a little over an hour plunging Puppet Ripper into his back and then getting reduced to bubbling slurry on the floor. Number 5, Nameless Puppet. Nameless is a weird one, because even though I hit multiple hour-long walls in this game, it only took me like 7 or 8 tries to take him down. Thank you, Puppet String Jump Attack. However, I very well may have gotten just exceedingly lucky. He has a power-speed combination that can take you from a full health bar to no pulse cells and a scintilla of that constitution in the literal blink of an eye. While it certainly is fast, and that sword is quite the cudgel to bludgeon you with, the difficulty never feels like it's too oppressive, oddly enough, even though it is very, very, very hard. Especially with some reasonable posture that he has. He'll let you get a few hits in, if you manage to time everything right. He can get a little wild when he puts all that dip on his proverbial chip though, because he'll do some Anakin spinning slashes with that thing. But it's nothing an endgame build really can't handle. The spectacle, incredible. Story impact, fantastic. Mechanics, tough but fair in the way that old Soulslikes try to capture. The good kind. In case you're just a monster, and the thought of giving your heart to Geppetto didn't make you want to kick him off the top of the Gateway Arch for dramatic effect, missing out in a fight of this quality should make you reconsider. It would take some of the fun out of what may be a perfect way to close this game. Number 4, Simon Manus Awakened God. The first phase here is kinda lame, as you get elemental hero Thunder Giant rolling and flopping all over the place and smashing with a hammer the size of a crane. What the Hunchback of Arch Abbey does next is sure to make players' jaws collectively drop. And then close back up because you'll start grinding your teeth together. The second phase goes beyond what modern psychopharmacology can help with. After a god grows out of his body and touches hands with the god, I don't know. In come the rolling attacks that do even more damage, ranged attacks that feel like a beach EDM concert due to how he lights up the screen, and his ability to literally make a divine hand come down from the great beyond and electro zap half the arena. It's like trying to fight a Katamari Damacy ball, but it's made out of nail bombs and exposed power lines. Manus is the poster child of first phase fine, second phase unreasonable bosses. and he's in the middle of the quality rankings, but if you're one of those super sadomasochists who enjoy getting their necks stomped on in electronic form at least, this could be one of the ones for you. Even when it finally prevailed, the relief was more, thank God I don't have to do that again, than anything else. Number 3, Laxasia the Complete. The top lieutenant of Manus here, Laxasia's first phase is all about power, as she roars at you with heavy sword swings and some defenses built in. Getting the parry timings down is essential, as trying to just dodge is a one-way ticket to getting this puppet broken into 5 pieces. That iconic multi-swing combo is so fast that it can get you trapped and deal tons of damage. I like how both of these phases present some solid challenges. The first one is more about the heavy swinging attacks mixed in with a good deal of speed, as evidenced in the 8-swing combo. But once you break her armor, she goes full Thor and/or Zeus mode and strikes you down with lightning bolts, all while showcasing some blinding speed that will make some respect the challenge and some call it bullshit. Eye of the beholder, I guess. Some may call Laxasia the hardest boss in the base game, and I rank among that crew of some. Manus may have more power, Nameless Puppet's a bit faster, and King of Puppets' first phase may take some of the sting away from the second one, but this one still reigns supreme. Many Souls bosses will have you blowing the top of your head off in the middle of the fight and then praising the fight afterwards, and Laxasia is the picture of that in this game, as that power speed combo just takes her over the top. Number 2, Anguished Guardian of the Ruins. I love the grotesque design and the concept of this giant following god bellowing back to life after ages of confinement. He gives you everything that should be expected of someone that makes Pinocchio feel like a tick, size-wise, as his power can be absolutely devastating, and his resistance to whatever you could throw at him, it makes him a real test of endurance. You could knock his health down by half and this would still be a marathon, with beams of light from the heavens striking you down where you stand, wide sweeps that'll hit you from light years away, and big heavy slam attacks that'll flatten you into a pancake if you don't block. You have to be on top of your game for so long to beat this guy. I mean, he has 52,000 health points. Both phases of Manus combined at 32,000. It's not a bad fight, and in a game with many humanoid bosses, it's a nice change of pace to fight this Cronenberg horror that looks like if Toki from Deathclock drank the blue sap from Uncharted 2 and got a God of War Ragnarok Alfheim tree stuck in his eye. It's just such a slog, in the same way that made Ancient Dragon in Dark Souls 2 or one of those Final Fantasy secret bosses unfun. When it takes that long to whittle him down, eventually you're gonna screw up. Number 1, who else could it be? Arlecchino the Blood Artist. This guy is one of the most chilling, sadistic villains I have ever seen. And this puppet's passion for slaughter and carnage made him someone that is both capable of cutting you to pieces with one flurry of attacks, or bullying you into submission with some extremely powerful demonstrations of destruction. Even fighting with the canonical strongest combatant in the world by leaps and bounds, this is a nightmare. Keep in mind, Leia is a free NPC summon with you, who is stronger than everyone else in the universe and has beaten the Riddler over here in the past, and this still took me almost 3 real-world hours to beat. It's so hard I can barely even give advice on how to beat it, because I think the game just got tired of seeing me die or heard me yelling and just gave me a win. First phase honestly isn't too wild. The hook attacks are a problem and he's aggressive as all hell and really fast, but the health pool isn't crazy high. Leia will also do a Judgment Cut Devil May Cry Virgil move that chops his health down a bit. But then the second phase happens, and dear God, what have we done? Giant blood, ranged attacks, an 8-attack combo that is way over the border of unfair because it will kill you if you get caught in the middle. Brutal attacks that lop off all of your health, insane speed that makes it impossible to maintain stamina when you're blocking, unparalleled aggression, and Joker-like insanity. This is not for the faint of heart. Beating him without Leia, not to be pessimistic, it just ain't happening for me. I can't do it. Having played all the FromSoft games out there in addition to Lies of P, except Elden Ring, I'm working on it. He is on the Mount Rushmore of hardest bosses. Ishin was cool enough to overwhelm the pain, so our Mechanical Man joins Demon of Hatred, Dark Eater Midir, and Manus Father of the Abyss in the top 4. And honestly, depending on what day you ask me, there is a very good chance I would nominate our Homicidal Fellow here as the hardest Souls or Souls-like boss we've ever seen. And that's the list. What did I get right and what did I get wrong? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you check out my full vlogs channel to see more of my streams. And be sure to like and subscribe to see more content like this and support my channel.